27 years ago today at 5 a.m., around 800 Palestinian worshippers passed through the east gate of the mosque. They thought that it will be a peaceful prayer in the mosque where Prophet Abraham, his wife Sarah, his son Prophet Isaac, and his grandson Prophet Jacob's tombs are located. But this man changed all of that. Baruch Goldstein, who lived in a settlement, turned the prayer into a bloody massacre. Goldstein, carrying an Israeli IMI Galil assault rifle, sprayed bullets upon kneeling Palestinian worshippers and left 29 of them dead and another 125 wounded. Later, he was beaten to death by survivors of the attack. At that time, the mosque was under Israeli army control and still is. 9 soldiers were supposed to be on duty that day. 4 were late and only 1 officer was there. Soldiers alleged that they thought Goldstein was an army officer wearing an army uniform and was going to pray inside a chamber in the mosque reserved for Jewish prayers. The incident sparked protests and led to confrontations in which the Israeli army killed more than 20 Palestinians and injured another 120. 9 Israelis were killed after the massacre in the occupied Palestinian territories. A few months before the incident happened, there were signs indicating something terrible might occur. A few months earlier, acid was poured inside the mosque, leaving giant holes in the carpets. Evidence from the guards at the sanctuary showed that the perpetrator was Goldstein. He also assaulted 6 worshippers inside the mosque. After that, Muslim authorities sent a letter to then Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin warning of the dangers posed by Goldstein and other daily violations in Ibrahimi Mosque. But the Rabin government ignored the letters. Israeli Secret Service also knew about Goldstein. The Israeli Security Service Shin Bet infiltrated the Kahane movement that Goldstein was a part of. The agent who infiltrated the group reported that Goldstein had said there will be a day when one Jew will take revenge on the Arabs. Despite his anti-Arab sentiments, Goldstein served in the Israeli army as a reserve captain in Hebron. He even served as the army doctor for emergencies at the sanctuary. Israeli media reported that he refused to treat any non-Jews. After his death, he was buried in a park in the Kiryat Arba settlement in the occupied West Bank where he used to live. His admirers would kneel and kiss his tombstone. They said that he gave his life for the people of Israel, its Torah and land. The Israeli government wanted to stop it. Legislation outlawing monuments for terrorists was passed in the Israeli parliament in 1998. And Goldstein's tomb-turned-to-shrine was dismantled by Israeli authorities.
Basically, everybody has the freedom to build any monument they want on the tomb, on the grave. But we thought that in such a case we should intervene and we should stop this because we also thought that maybe there will be pilgrims coming over there and celebrating. And therefore, we thought that this is something we should not accept.
After the massacre, the Israeli government also responded by declaring the Kahane movement that Baruch Goldstein was part of as a terrorist organization. The government appointed a commission that called the massacre a base and murderous act in which innocent people banding in prayer to their maker were killed. But Palestinians also paid the price as victims. The Israeli government banned Palestinians from certain streets in Hebron, such as El Shuhada Street, where Palestinian touristic commercial activity mostly takes place. And the Israeli military divided the Ibrahimi Mosque into 2 parts, giving exclusive access of more than half to Israeli settlers and Jewish visitors. The division of the mosque was seen as a slap in the face for Palestinians, especially for those living in occupied East Jerusalem. Israel has occupied East Jerusalem and controlled Al-Aqsa Mosque since 1967. Since then, Jewish extremists have been storming Al-Aqsa Mosque regularly. And Palestinians feel that Israeli authorities may seize part of Al-Aqsa Mosque as well.
جاهز إسرائيل إنها تقسمه والمخطط جاهز من زمان وبيستنوا ينفذوه وفي فحريات تحت المسجد الأقصى لها سنين وبنتوقع بأي وقت إنه يبقوا مقسمين المسجد الأقصى.
إسرائيل عمالة بتخطط نفسه صار بالحرم الإبراهيمي يصير بالأقصى ولي.
What influenced Goldstein's thinking was an extremist Jewish ideology called Kahanism. It was named after its founder, Rabbi Meir Kahane, who was also the founder of the Jewish Defense League and the Kah party in Israel. Kah means this is the way in Hebrew. And it was the name of the party when it was founded in 1971 in Israel. Kah's platform called for legislation to transfer all Arabs before they outnumbered Jews. Kah was also in favor of Israeli sovereignty over all the occupied West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Rabbi Meir Kahane won one seat in the 1984 election. After that, the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, passed a law banning any party inciting racism from participating in elections. So in the 1988 elections, Kah was officially disqualified from running. Rabbi Meir Kahane was assassinated in New York in 1990. But his ideas are still alive. Otzma Yehudit means Jewish strength and is a political party in Israel. The party is considered to be Zionist, Kahanist and anti-Arab. The party platform calls for annexation of the occupied West Bank and applying Israeli sovereignty all over the Palestinian lands. The party's leader, Itamar Ben-Gvir, is a lawyer representing, among others, the two teenagers charged in the Duma arson attack that killed the Dawabshe family in Duma village in the occupied West Bank. He is also a former Kah activist and has a picture that hangs on the wall of his home, of guess who? Baruch Goldstein. And while former Israeli governments may have tried to disassociate from Goldstein and Kahanism, the current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has recently signed a surplus vote-sharing agreement with a Zionist party that includes the Kahanist Otzma Yehudit for the March 23 elections. Netanyahu has said that leaders of Otzma Yehudit won't be part of his cabinet, but only a part of the governing coalition.
Netanyahu is doing it because he's trying to guarantee his next election, and he is trying to collect any possible support from Israeli Palestinians and from Kahanis. Nothing stops him because this man is motivated by ruthless ambition to be back in power, to be back as Prime Minister after the election.
So it has been 27 years since the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre, and the Israeli Prime Minister is now embracing political allies who venerate the man who committed the massacre. Is peaceful coexistence now even further away than ever?